Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, welcome to Start Before You're Ready. I'm Kelly Young, and I am here with a very special guest today. I am here with Erica Collins. She is a former student. Actually, she became a student of mine about 20 years ago. And then she also started doing our outdoor boot camp program and became an instructor. And we're going to talk about all the things today. But I just want to introduce her as somebody that I really admire and somebody that I feel like has done a really great job of navigating all the stages of life. I'll go ahead and let Erica share kind of how she started with KBC and a little bit of her story of how the journey went along.
Yeah. Oh, so nice to be here, Kelly. Thank you for having me. I think you and I first met at Lifetime. I think I took a couple of your classes when I was in college and went to Lifetime in Centerville, which was like the gym that all of our friends went to. And it was a fun place to be, but I didn't really love going to the gym until I started taking group fitness classes. And then I was totally hooked. Mm-hmm. And then after college, when I started working, our company had a membership with a little gym across the street. And it was like a special pricing that we got. And it was like such a deal. So my coworker and I would leave work in time to make it to your class, quick change, and get our spot with all of our equipment set up. And I just loved going to your class. So it's been a wild journey since we started back in those days. And then I started taking your classes at the tennis courts when you told me that you were starting an outdoor program, and have just really loved being a part of the community and working out with you ever since.
Yeah. But what's interesting about you, so, I mean, you were so young when you started, and we were all older. I mean, I had already had 4 kids and you'd been married for 10 years, and it didn't bother you to start with this group that you didn't really, other than me as an instructor, you didn't really have any connections. You didn't bring a friend with you when you started at the tennis courts, did you, Erica?
A couple of times I had a friend who would come, and she's actually the reason why I started teaching. You know, you need to surround yourself with good people. And when I had Leighton, my middle child, I said to her, I think I want to like teach fitness classes. And she was like, you should go talk to Kelly and see what she says. And so I did. And that's how I started teaching with you. It was because my friend Alicia told me I should go for it, even though I wasn't ready.
Okay.
She said, just go talk to Kelly.
That sounds very Erica.
Yeah, she said, talk to Kelly.
That sounds very much, yeah. Well, I think one thing that I've noticed about you in the 20 years that I've known you is that you don't always have to do what everybody else is doing, and that you do listen to your gut. And if something speaks to you, you're like, oh, I'll try it. We just always had like a really positive, can-do, confident attitude. And I think that served you really well, not only as a woman and as a mom, as a person that's has a full-time job outside of the home, but as just like in your own personal growth. I've just seen so much. I think that's really neat. So when you first started, you were out of the tennis courts, and then you got your husband to come. How did that happen? Well, he wasn't your husband then. You got your boyfriend to come.
Yeah, I think so. We were engaged, and I was taking your classes at Olympus. And I just love group fitness classes. I just love the energy. I think that's why it didn't bother me that everyone was a different age than me or in a different phase of life. Also, I just think there's so much power in like seeing women who are 10 steps ahead of you. And this group of women has always been really supportive. And well, I did feel sometimes like, wow, I'm in like a different place than them. But I also always admired the fact that, you know, I would see these women out in the community where I live, and they would say hi, and they'd have their kids. And then eventually their kids became my kids' babysitters, and my kids look up to their kids, and I look up to them. And, you know, it's a good group to surround yourself with. So I love that about our classes. But yes, so back to Jared. So Jared started coming because, then we were newlyweds, and we lived out here, and there really weren't a lot of places to work out that were close by. And we just started coming on Saturdays together because we had no kids and we had all the time in the world, and we would go Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and work out. And we're both a little competitive. So we would like,
as you just read my mind.
Yeah,
you just jumped ahead to where I was going to go. It's the flashbacks.
I was cleaning a drawer in the office the other week, and I found those little red journals that had the sticker on them. And we would put a sticker with like your timed mile time and some of those other fitness assessments. And so we just enjoyed doing that together when we discovered it.
Yeah, I love that. And that is not something we do so much anymore in our exercise community. But I will say, just kind of as we're going, giving some tips, one of the things that I felt really strongly about as a fitness instructor and a trainer is people need to see themselves getting better. It's so important to know, like, hey, this is working. Like last week I showed up and I was able to do this. And now, a couple weeks later, I can do this many more, or they don't, I feel so much better when I'm doing them, or whatever that growth is. And I think when I first started, maybe I didn't have the confidence to be like, oh, people are just going to get better and I wanted them to see it. I'm like, I want them to know that what they're doing is working. So we did do a lot of assessments, and it did attract competitive people. It attracted people that wanted to get better, that was something that they valued. They liked the idea of, oh, she's measuring this and then she's going to measure that. Some people did not like that. They made it very clear. So we started to do a little bit less of it, but it was definitely a big part of our community when we first started. But here's what's important to know. And Erica's a fastie. Okay. I'll call her a fastie. And so is her husband, Jared. They're two, I think he might have the record for time mile. But it was never about who was the best. It didn't matter. In fact, we probably loved on the person that was the slowest more than we loved on the person that was the best, just because that was just part of our culture. And we always acknowledged change. Yeah. So if it didn't, there was never a podium where these are the three fastest people. There was always a podium that said, these are the three people that improve the most. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so important because everybody has an opportunity to improve. Everybody, it didn't leave anybody out. One of the sayings that we love to say, and Erica's probably rolling her eyes because she's heard it for 20 years, show up, work hard, get better. That's it. Keep it simple. Just show up, do the work, see yourself getting better. And then that leads you to say, what else can I do? It's very empowering. So I love that Erica was part of that part of the journey. But let's kind of fast forward a little bit, Erica. And you mentioned how you started thinking about teaching, and you mentioned it to a friend. Mm-hmm. And then what was the process from there?
So I just loved working out. I loved the feeling after you work out. I love seeing that progress. I love the connections you make with people. And I had just had my daughter, so it was my second pregnancy. And I went to go visit my friend who also had just had a baby. And I said, I think I want to not do the current job that I'm doing. I was in sales at the time, which I had a fantastic job that I loved, but I just really wanted to be home more with my kids, first of all. Mm-hmm. And I also was like, I also have this desire to teach fitness. And that was at a time where there was a lot of online social media fitness things going on. And I knew I didn't want to be a person who was selling myself on a video. I wanted to be in mm-hmm. real life, impacting mm-hmm. people and connecting with people. And so I said that to my friend. I was like, I don't want to be someone in a bikini lifting weights on Facebook, but I want to do something. And she had come to those classes at the tennis courts off and on because she lived nearby for a little bit, but then she moved. So she said, go talk to Kelly. I bet she would love to have someone to help her on a day where she has to take a kid somewhere or whatever. But you didn't really you had some assistants at that time. You had people at the lot who would help you on Saturday, but it was mm-hmm. a one-man show pretty much. I think you were
for a long time,
maybe starting to
that's another podcast.
Entertain the idea.
That's another episode. I was not quick to let go of to share my teaching.
And that's part of it. We're all on a journey. You got there eventually. But yeah, so she said to me, just go talk to her. And so I did. And did I have any qualifications to teach other than that I liked to work out and I had a passion for it? No, I had zero qualifications. I just wanted to start a conversation and see where it took me. So I mm-hmm. emailed you or called you or
That's
said
called
something to you
taking
after,
action.
yeah, said something to you after a class maybe, and you were like, oh, come over. And I remember sitting in your kitchen and we talked about like what I wanted to do. And you said, just start coming to as many classes as you can and like mirror me, like shadow me, like think about the class from my perspective, not the student perspective. And also go get a certification. So as I was getting that certification, which by the way, I had just quit my full-time job. So I was like, okay, we have a house and a mortgage and now 2 kids, and I quit my job and I'm going to teach fitness classes. But I just think now I'm going to
To
go
do
pay.
something else. It's going to cost
Right.
me more money than I'm going to make. But
Right,
that's
right. So I was so nervous that if I failed that test, I would have to pay the full amount again to take the test again. So I mean, I made flashcards. I studied my butt off. Anyway, so that whole summer I was
Erica takes everything. And this is one of the reasons why I'm such a huge Erica fan, is she does take everything that she does very seriously. If she's going to take something on, and trust me, there weren't a lot of students that could have come to me and said, hey, Kelly, I want to teach, that I would have embraced and said, come to my home and I want to help you make this happen. But she had shown me so many things as a student that I just admired about her. And how you show up in one thing is often how you're going to show up in other things. So I knew that she wasn't as scared to take risks as some people are. I knew that she was willing to put herself out there. She had that confidence. So I knew that if this was something that she had sent her intentions to, she most likely was going to do it. And when you have 2 little kids and all the things, it's a big undertaking. So keep going, Erica.
Yeah, so I studied that summer for that ACE certification and took the test in August. And at that time, you were also doing like small group programs in your garage. Mm-hmm. So I would come help teach those classes.
Yeah.
And so I just started somewhere. Like I just took your lead and started somewhere. And truly, like when you're learning from Kelly and she's teaching a class, you got to be on it. Okay. You got to be ready and anticipate. Okay. And so to the best of my ability, I tried to do that and I learned a lot. And sometimes I wasn't quick enough, but I figured it out. And it was just such a fun experience. And I think because it was a small group and it was women who you got to know on a different level than a larger class, mm-hmm. It felt like a very safe place to learn. I learned so much from them, from your relationship with them, and from how to plan a class to how to relate to your members. And so that's where it started. That was pre-energy. So that was when your energy was in the garage studio.
Yeah. And so Erica's right. I think I was starting to think about a studio, and my outdoor programming had always been incredibly reasonably priced because I didn't have any overhead and it was just me. But I knew, if I have a studio, I'm going to have to charge a lot more. Let me see if people are interested in a higher touch point, higher price point program. And that's what Erica's referring to. The program is called Camp U. And that program was a great start for us as far as our coaching, as far as like adding another layer, like adding nutrition coaching but it also was where my instructors learned to teach, which several of my instructors that are still was Amy and I think it was Jen Larmer and you and Jody. And I think it was just the 3 of you and you co-taught together. But so it was a learning, we were all learning. And, Erica's being kind by saying I wasn't quick enough. I was not my best self a lot of times when I had them teaching classes, because I'd be like, what are they doing? Like, I wanted to look this way. And I learned a lot too. So we both started before we were ready, for sure. I don't think that I was ready to teach other people how to teach. And it was a process. It was a process. But I think one of the things that has really helped our relationship as teammates now, because we're still teammates, is we're both very candid people. And she would say, hey, Kelly, this, and I'd be like, okay, you're right. Like it was just a very easy, we've always had a very easy relationship. We've always been able to communicate really openly to each other. Like if I had something in my teeth, she'd be the first one to tell me. And I love that about her. I absolutely love that about her. That's like a mutual respect that we have for each other. So it was very easy for us to work together. And then, so then Energy opened and she was one of
Well, right
our
before
premier
when
instructors,
Yeah, right before
right?
Energy opened, I remember we went for a walk in the winter, and you were saying, "I'm going to open this studio." And I had gone with you to a couple spaces that
Mm-hmm.
didn't work out, and then this one did work out. And you were talking about the timeline. It's probably going to open in May, and I was like, "That's so great!" And I definitely want to teach. Also, I'm pregnant with my third.
Oh, that's right.
And you
I
were
knew there
like,
was something.
yes. And I remember we were walking. You were like, I knew that was going to happen. Like, your response.
And
Um,
now we have Bennett. So
and
it
oh my
was
gosh,
certainly
yeah,
well worth the delay of
yes.
you starting. But you did
But I
start
did.
when we
I taught.
opened.
No, I taught
Yeah.
May till August. He was born in August. I think I taught till like July 20th because I
Wow.
remember being like very large.
Well, and talk about that a little bit, Erica, because I don't think with Leighton you did teach, or did you
No,
teach
no,
when you
no.
had
I
Leighton?
started
No, when
teaching
you were
after
pregnant.
I had Leighton. So I
Okay.
took classes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
probably not as often because I had Cole. So I would
Right. You had two
bring him
little
one.
ones. You kind of
Yeah.
fell off, but you kept your foot in the door. You weren't completely, I mean, you're not the type that would ever just stop exercising, but I do feel like you were a little less intense in that period of your life just because of where you were, you're with your family.
Yeah, and I think that that's also important to call out that it's okay not to be like all or nothing on things.
Mm.
I have a friend who just had her fifth baby, and at the baby shower, her mom said that this friend, her name's Tori, she always signs up for everything, to volunteer for everything in classes with all four of her boys, and she doesn't say no to anything. And her mom said, Tori, you're about to have your fifth baby. Like, you can't say yes to everything. And she said, yeah, Mom, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And at first I thought, we got to do everything like 100% effort. It has to be perfect. And then I was like, that is so true. Anything worth doing is worth doing. Like, whether it's, the absolute best you have or just the best you have that day.
Mm.
So I thought
Yeah.
it was such a great little pearl of wisdom from my friend Tori.
Especially from a mama about to have 5 kids.
Yeah, you might not get to every Monday, Wednesday, Friday class that you had planned that week, but don't not go to all of them. That analogy, like you got a flat tire, so you don't walk around and pop the other 3. You figure it out. You do what you can. You carry what you can carry. You do what you can do, and anything worth doing is worth doing. So
I love that. I really actually love that. I think that that's great advice, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like, where people feel like if they can't be all in, then they're out, which is something that we struggle with a lot as coaches with our clients. That's what we see. We see them where they're doing great and we're so proud of them and we're so excited and we're celebrating their success. And then they say, oh, I need to take a break because I've just got a lot going on with work. And I just take a deepest breath and I just say, please don't take a break. Do less. Figure out one time a week you can come. Figure out, because it's so hard to stop. And then it's 3 years later. I hear these stories all the time. Or after your kid, it's so much better to just keep going at a lower level or a lower intensity and sometimes we need to take a break. Okay. Sometimes we need to take a break, but that is definitely a message that I want to share. And hopefully week after week on this podcast is that something is always better than nothing. Keep one foot in the door, stay in the game, have a plan. Your plan shouldn't be when this is over. Don't wait. That's not going to happen. Because then when that kid's 5, then there's going to be another kid, or there's going to be a more stressful job. There's always going to be something that's going to make it hard. So you've got to figure out how to do it when it's hard, like Erica did when she had 2 kids pregnant with her third. She figured it out. So I think that's really important. I love that you said that, Erica.
Yeah.
So you you definitely shared this, saying something that you started doing before you were ready, and you would say that's teaching. Is there anything else? Do you have another example in your life that you feel like you just started it, and then I have one for you, but I'm sure you might
to hear yours.
have others. So go ahead.
I feel like everything I ever do, I start before I'm ready. Actually,
that's probably why I love you so much.
Becoming a parent. Don't you feel like that? You have no clue. Times 3 every single time. And probably, so beyond teaching fitness class, I think in the health and fitness like space, I started teaching youth classes, but I did feel really prepared for that. But I will say, I started teaching fitness classes for like high school female athletes and middle school female athletes in 2021 or two. And I started then because I felt really ready. But prior to that, back in what year did you start on the tennis courts? I did do a youth program back then.
I wondered if we were going to get to this.
Yeah,
okay.
For everyone's kids, way back then, that was you all had these gorgeous little kids that would, come stand outside at the lot, play on the playground. And I could see these moms working out, but then like running over to get the kid off the monkey bars, or, they were trying to squeeze in a workout after work at 5:30 on a Tuesday, and they had all these little kids with them. And so I can't remember how this started. If I asked you, or
I think I remember. If it's what I remember is you were working for a pharmaceutical company and you were selling baby food.
Yep.
And you wanted input from these moms.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to just ask them. And you said, Kelly, what do you think? You were so young then and you were so innovative to have this idea, but you're like, Kelly, what do you think if I just do, like, while the moms are here, if I teach their kids a class, and that way I can connect with them a little bit more, and I can get some information that might be helpful for my new role. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even think we charged for it.
I think it was just the kids would come on the tennis courts and they would do little drills. You helped me with it. I think I said I'll teach the kids, because I was a camp counselor. That was like my favorite job of all time, was being a camp counselor. And so I used to being around kids. And so I would set up little circuits on the tennis courts, but you definitely helped me. I remember there's pictures somewhere of both of us out there on the tennis courts with the kids doing that. So that was,
but even so, that was something before
I even thought about
becoming a fitness instructor. There's always all these little things, and that gave you confidence, as a leader. So I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because that's definitely like my Erica story. That I was like, oh, this girl, she's something. She's asking to, she's networking with all these mothers. She was just so smart to be doing that back then. And then then fast forward, having her have all her babies and kind of getting to be, I don't call myself the grandma, but the older version of that.
My kids adore you. Yeah, I think that was something that, when you start something before you're ready, there's always steps before that got you to that idea. Mm-hmm. And don't overlook those. Those should give you confidence.
Being an athlete, being somebody that liked to be coached. I think that's a big part of your identity from what I've known of you is you like to be coached. Mm-hmm. You like to get better. You want feedback more than anybody I know. You really want feedback. You're like, I want to get better at this. So who better than to coach than a person who likes to be coached, right? Those are that's just such a telltale sign that you're going to be a great coach, is that you liked to be coached. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask, I kind of move ahead a little bit with the next question. What's something that you still struggle with as far as health and fitness? What aspect of that? Anything? Or do you feel like I've got this all down? I'm a total rock star. I'm perfect at everything.
No, I do feel like I've gotten better at things that I used to struggle with. But I think one thing that recently keeps creeping up that I would love your input on is you have raised amazing kids who are student athletes throughout high school and college. And as a parent, I have kids that are playing sports now, and we're at an age where things are getting more competitive. And, the kids start to compare themselves to other athletes. And it's less about, it's fun, I'm with my friends, and it's more about, it gets competitive. And I really try to be this voice of optimism and just encouragement to my kids. And I'm just curious, what kind of helped you through those phases when you see that your kids are competitive too? And how do you balance supporting them, but also helping them to see big picture, that you're more than just an athlete, sports aren't everything, but they're clearly everything to these kids at this stage. So how do you, what advice do you have in that? Because I think it's mindset, it's fitness, it's health, it's words that you say to kids who play sports, like they don't forget, like I remember things coaches or parents said to me when I was a kid playing sports that I could still remember them saying. Might have been an offhand comment to them, but to me, I'm like, I remember this mom said this, and I was like, I've forgotten it.
That goes back to you being coachable. I feel very similar, and coaches and parents, and just being an athlete is a part of your identity for life, no matter what version of an athlete you were, whether it was rec sports or you playing a golf game. Erica, that's a really good question. And I don't feel like I thought about it that much. I will say that. I definitely never coached my kids like, hey, I wish you did this, or neither Andrew nor I did that. And good or bad, it just wasn't our style. It was always like, rewarding effort, kind of like how I do boot camp, just like rewarding the scrappiness, rewarding things that I saw them do with other teammates. I'd make a big deal if I saw them pick up another teammate off the ground, try to make a big deal of the things that I really, truly found valuable, watching them as athletes. But effort always counted 10 times for me. Like, it was never about the scoring or the whatever. It's like, you never gave up out there. You gave it your all, or that kind of stuff. With Lindsay, when she looked happy, I would try to, with gymnastics or cheer, when I could just see that, she was finding the joy in it and not being stressed about the competition about it. I would acknowledge that. So just acknowledging what I saw that I liked. We probably could have spent a little bit more time troubleshooting. It wasn't really our style. But I also think that it's just a little bit different now. I think things move a little bit faster, even, though our kids aren't that far apart. I don't love that about sports. But I think what you're doing, I know that you're doing, that I tell everybody to do, is just have them do different stuff. Don't put all their eggs in one basket. Like, it's not, you could be the best basketball player in middle school, and then, it just not in your cards for high school or whatever it is. So just keep trying different stuff and be a good teammate, because everyone wants a good teammate on their team. Being a good teammate is going to serve you more in life than, how well you can tackle in football or whatever the sport is.
Yeah, I love that.
So those are the things that I know you do stress with your kids, but it is a really good question. And when they're, give them confidence. Like, if I could go to any kid right now, any adult even, and give them something, like if I could teach them something, it's just go out there and just believe in yourself. Just know that your best is always good enough. And that when you show up on the field, on the court, on, the fitness studio, whatever it is, just show up and do your best. And it's good enough. And that's a culture that is harder when the kids are little, because they are comparing themselves, and there are, they'll learn it later in life. But yeah, it is tricky. I feel for you. You do a really good job of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So what's one tip that you would give somebody? So say there's somebody that's listening to this, Erica, that's just like, not on a true health, like they're thinking about it. I don't think anyone would listen to this if they're not like somewhat contemplating, but they're not doing the things that they want to do. Maybe they've broken some promises to themselves in the past. They feel like they try and they're good for a little while and then they fail, or they don't stick with anything. What would be your advice to them?
I think probably it would be, one, find something you like doing. Even if it's walking. I mean, just, and if you don't really like anything, pair it with something you do like. If you love listening to podcasts, for example, or watching a show, take that, which you already like and you're going to do, and pair it with walking. Like, walk on a treadmill with the TV, or put earbuds in and take a walk and listen to a podcast. Find something that you do like and put it with something that's healthy, and then start from there. And you will be surprised how it grows into something that you enjoy and look forward to, and make that be a habit. Like, write it down on your calendar, make it be a non-negotiable appointment for yourself. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be, in a matching outfit. You don't have to be chic. Just show up for yourself, start small, pair it with something that you like. And then also, I think something that I've loved about group fitness is just the the accountability and the connection of doing something with others. So if you can, if you're lucky enough to have someone that lives near you, or even that you can somehow partner up with to keep each other accountable and create connections so that when you show up for something, you're excited to see someone else there. Those two things, I think, would be my biggest tips.
I couldn't agree with you more. Those are brilliant, really brilliant. And just to go back to attaching it to something that you like, I don't care how disciplined you are, how motivated. If there's nothing about it that you like, you're going to find a reason to stop doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be something about it that you like. And we all, you know yourself better than anybody. So you know what means something to you. It could be that show or whatever it is. And that's fine. That's fine. Whatever it is, attach getting some movement or into that. That's a really, really great piece of advice. So my last question for you is, this is maybe somebody that's already doing most of the things, right? Maybe they're like, they're working out and they're pretty good with their nutrition most of the time. If you're like, oh man, if you could just start doing this, I think it would be a big game changer for you.
So someone who's already started doing something, they're having some success, but they need more.
Yeah, they're like ready for, I know this is so case dependent. It's kind of a hard question, but just in your coaching, what you've seen in the small group training that you've done and with the athletes that you're working with, that you've worked with, what would you say? Like, my biggest piece of advice to people would be,
I think that when you like stop and do some self-reflection and even write down something that like you're proud of yourself for, or, some win you can celebrate. I think that's really powerful. Like when I would do those small group training with my middle school girls, I just would end the class with a circle and everyone would have to go around and say something that they liked about the workout or something that in the past week, because we would meet 2 days a week, and I would ask them like, what are you proud of? What are you enjoying? What are you feeling? And like share anything. And they all would share. I felt stronger when I did that. And you could just see this like confidence come out of them, just them saying it out loud, even if it's just to yourself. I think there's a lot of power in hearing yourself say, I did really good at that thing. And I got stronger because of that. And even if the first time I tried it, like box jumps were a big thing for them. Like they like those moves that are kind of like cool and
well,
fun.
that's a version of an assessment, really.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like I wasn't physically able to do this before, and now I am.
Yeah, and like you could see, I remember we would get in a line, and some people just will jump on a box without even thinking about it, and other people like really think about it. Okay, so these girls who were all awesome would, some of them would just attack this box jump and go do it and hop right off and get back in line, and there was one person that hesitated, and I said, come here. And she was like, I said, you don't have to do a box jump if you don't want to, but I can see how high you jump when we do these other jumps. And I know you can clear the box. So try it. And she did. And when she got it, it was like, it's so, those are such
emotional
to see. But when you stop and do that about anything you're doing, and you stop and acknowledge, like, I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I could get to 2 classes this week, and I did. Or, I didn't think I could get to 10,000 steps every single day this week, and I did. Stop and just acknowledge, like, that was great that I did that, and keep doing that, because it does start to snowball, and little wins turn into big wins. And before you know it, you are wearing a matching outfit to your workout, drinking a protein shake afterwards, and you're, planning your meal around 30 to 40 grams of protein at every plate you make. So those little things, when you celebrate them and acknowledge that they're important to you and that you feel good from them, they really add up.
I absolutely love that answer so much. And I think that's a great way to end. And just to summarize that with a statement that someone shared, I think it was in my mastermind group, and I just like wrote it down in huge letters. I call it Braille. When I get excited, I'm like, I write, like, indent the paper. And it's the moment I stop celebrating my wins is the moment I stop having them. So we all need to do a better job of celebrating our success. And it doesn't have to be something huge. I love the example of 2 times a week. And that's one of the things we're trying to do in our community right now is milestone visits. When people first get started, like if they get to 10 classes, writing them a little handwritten note and saying, you're so awesome. And because that is so awesome. They're like, oh, it's just 10 classes. The person next to me has been to 10,000. Who cares?
Yeah.
You came to 10 classes. You know how hard it is? All the things that have to happen to get you to the studio 10 times or to get you in front of your, Peloton or whatever it is. Can't believe I use that word, but it's a huge deal. It's a huge, huge deal. And don't minimize it. And don't look at other people and compare like, well, they're doing this and they've done this for so long. And you just did this. It's a great, great, great piece of advice. I'm so glad that you shared that advice, Erica. I am so thankful of all of the advice that you shared because you are the real deal. And this isn't something that you've been doing, this is something that I've seen you evolve over the past 20 years as a student. And just your passion is really important. And that's why I love being on a team with you because I know how much you value seeing other people succeed. I think that's a true coach. A true coach is just someone that gets so happy to see other people doing things that they didn't think that they could, to be that voice in your head, to say, you can do this box jump. I've seen you jump this high. I know you can do it. To help people have that, just that little bit of confidence can make such a difference. So thank you, Erica, for
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so fun.
It was fun. Let's do it again.
We should. Let me know.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.